Welcome to The Planted and the Poured, a space for real conversations about life as it is while we're becoming who we were created to be. Can I ask you a question? Who taught you how to eat? Your parents? Was it people at school? TikTok? Most of us have spent years feeling guilty about our eating habits, but very few of us were actually taught how food works. So a few years ago, if you started talking to me about ingredients and seed oils and reading food labels, I probably would have thought you were crunchy and maybe even a little crazy. In fact, that's pretty much what I thought about our first Embrace Grace mom, shout out to Mariah, when she started talking to me about it. But she planted a seed. And at the time, if I'm honest, I didn't really think I needed to hear it. I thought I was healthy. I worked out. I made my own protein smoothies. I didn't eat out very often. And so I thought I was doing a pretty good job of taking care of myself. But what I didn't realize was that I never stopped to think about what was actually in the foods that I thought were healthy. And then life happened. My mother-in-law passed away from a very aggressive cancer. Months later, I started breaking out in hives. And so around that time, I started thinking more and more about what I was eating, the products I was using in my home, and what I was putting on my body. And for the first time, I started asking questions that I never really thought about before. What's in my food? Why is this ingredient in here? Why do I feel different after I eat certain things? What am I putting on my skin every day? Do I even need this many steps in my skincare routine? And I realized that my body wasn't as indestructible as I thought it was. But for years, I thought that if I looked good in the mirror and I moved my body, that I must be healthy. And I learned that health is so much more than the number on the scale. And food isn't just going to dictate what you weigh. It controls your sleep and your hormones and your mood and your long-term health. And so I had never really heard these things before. So before I jump into this, if healthy eating feels confusing to you, or if you've tried before and given up, or you feel like everybody online is telling you something different, I just want you to know that it's not because you're a failure. Healthy eating is actually more about knowledge than sheer willpower, because it's hard to make good decisions when you don't really know what you're looking at. So today, I'm not going to tell you what not to eat. I just want to explain why healthy eating feels so hard in the first place, and then tell you some things that have helped me make changes that have resulted in me feeling a lot better. So let's start off with why healthy eating feels so hard. Again, it's not because we're lazy or we're failures. A lot of us were not taught how to do it correctly. I did not practice reading ingredient labels in school. I don't remember anyone explaining how to regulate your blood sugar or how food affects all the different body processes. I learned about the food pyramid, and I know that that can bring up some big feelings in some people, but the food pyramid that I learned when I was younger told me that cereal and bread were the most important things for me to eat. And I think most of us can agree that we know better than that now. Another reason why eating healthy feels really difficult is because we are just trying to survive. If you are a young mom and you are exhausted, you're probably not going to crave broccoli. You're going to crave something convenient. And that makes sense, especially even if you're not a mom. We live in a society that promotes food that is fast, cheap, and easy. And the third reason why healthy eating may feel difficult is because healthy food can feel like it's more expensive. I know organic, grass-fed, and grass-finished everything isn't realistic for everybody, but healthy eating does not have to be all or nothing. And even small changes can yield big results. So I'm going to go through some things that can make healthy eating a little bit more affordable and a little bit more manageable. So The first thing is to build meals around what's on sale, not around specific recipes. So you're going to kind of reverse engineer what might be your process when you go food shopping. Instead of thinking about what you want to eat and buying those ingredients, you can do it the other way and looking at what's on sale, work your meals around that. So for instance, instead of deciding that you want tacos and then buying everything for tacos, you can look at the weekly ad first. If chicken thighs are on sale, great, we're having chicken this week. And that can save you a surprising amount of money over time. And it is easier today to do this than ever before. AI is your friend. You can ask ChatGPT for 5 different ideas for meals to make with chicken thighs if that's what's on sale this week. Another thing that you can do to save yourself some money is to shop your pantry first. Before you go to the store, you can ask yourself, what can I make with what I already have? Once again, AI is a great tool for this because you can plug in whatever ingredients you have and ask it for ideas of what to make that tastes good and includes most, if not all of those things. I do this all the time when I am trying to clear out my pantry and make sure I'm using everything I can so that it doesn't go bad. Do I have bananas that are too ripe? Great. I'm going to make banana bread, and that's going to be my treat for the week. Another thing to help you save money is by buying fewer health foods. I think increased awareness about food and healthy eating has led food companies to try to use that to their advantage. And they create these foods that sound really good, but actually have a lot of unnecessary fillers and ingredients in them that make them not so great. This could be protein bars, fancy powders, expensive granola, and a lot of these things are not necessary to eat healthy. Some healthy foods can actually be pretty inexpensive. Eggs, bananas, plain Greek yogurt, things like that. Another tip is that frozen is your friend. Fresh produce is amazing, but frozen produce is typically less expensive and it lasts way longer and it reduces waste. I use frozen berries for my smoothies. I use them for my yogurt, and it is way more affordable than buying them fresh. Another thing to help you save money is to eat before you go to the grocery store. When you shop when you're not hungry, you are more likely to stick to your list, therefore making healthier choices and not spending money that you don't really need to be spending. Another way to save money at the grocery store is buying ingredients rather than convenience. So instead of buying shredded cheese or pre-chopped fruit, if you buy those in their whole form and you do a little extra work preparing them, that can save you money. And it typically is better for you. For instance, when you buy shredded cheese, there's usually some kind of tapioca starch or something to prevent caking. Whereas if you shred it yourself, you're getting a cleaner version of that product, and it's usually at a lower price point. The last tip I have for saving money at the grocery store is learning 5 inexpensive go-to meals. While it's great to have a variety, if you're just starting out cooking for yourself or you're trying to eat out less, having 5 go-to recipes that do not cost a lot of money will help you avoid the convenience of eating out. A lot of these too are good because they're dump and go in the crock pot. Chili, soup, a stir fry, a sheet pan chicken, eggs and potatoes. These are things that don't take a long time to cook or they don't take a lot of hands-on effort. So now that we talked about why healthy eating seems hard and I shared some tips about making it a little bit less expensive, I just want to go over some principles that can really shift the way that you eat, not only to be healthier, but to just be more enjoyable. So I talked about this in a previous episode, but breaking your fast with protein is really important because it not only jumpstarts your metabolism, but it also helps you stay full longer. So you're not eating as much and you're not hungry every 2 hours. Going with that, eating food that actually fills you other than protein, you also want to include things like fiber and healthy fats as well. Another tip is to add before you subtract. Healthy eating could feel like it's restrictive, and you don't necessarily want that because then it may not be sustainable, and you want something that you can do consistently. So instead of just taking everything away and hoping for the best, you might want to approach it from the mentality of addition before subtraction. If you have a very carb-heavy dinner, what protein can I have? What vegetables can I have so that I get more nutrients? I feel like that is a more manageable mindset, especially when you are getting started. The last thing I want to say is just a reminder to not let perfect become the enemy of good. I know that's a very cliche saying, but I think it's really true because a lot of times we think, well, if I can't do it right, then why am I even bothering? But your body will benefit from every good choice that you make. And once those good choices become habits, then you can stack on more good choices. Another thing I want to address is that if you look at a picture of me from 10 years ago, before I started eating this way, you would think that I looked healthier 10 years ago because, let's be honest, I was skinnier. And I've had to let go of that. And it hasn't been the easiest ride. But I know that today, at 34, I am healthier than I was back then. I'm stronger than I was back then. My skin is better than it was back then. My energy is better than it was back then. And most importantly, my relationship with food is healthier. And especially for you who are moms of girls, they are watching and they are going to pick up on your relationship with food. So the healthier place you can get that to be, the better off they will be as well. So now we're going to end with a challenge. And again, like in previous episodes, we're going to choose one thing. Maybe you decide you're going to have water instead of soda. Maybe you're not going to drink soda during the week. Maybe you're going to start off with having more protein at breakfast, or adding a vegetable at dinner, or eating your breakfast before you have the cup of coffee. You don't have to try to change your entire life this week, but just prove to yourself that you can make better choices and see how that helps you feel better. So thank you so much for listening. If I said something today that was helpful, I would love for you to subscribe to this podcast and send it to someone you care about. This is a conversation that we're creating together. So if there's something that you would like to share or talk about, you can plant a seed of conversation using the link in the show notes. I hope this met you where you're at today, and I'm truly honored to be with you as we become the people we were created to be. Until next time.